test or that there are any standards, they just feed the cow, especially zero grazing animals. You know, the way nature intended was for cows to just roam around and collect food so that they can choose for themselves. But now, if you cage them all together and you provide them with food, then it is imperative that we now control what leaves that area to go feed the rest of the public. The previous senator talked about issues of, vet officers certifying meat. I think now, since the county governments have been given a role in this bill, which is to implement and enforce food safety measures, they have to make sure that if it is in a region and there are milk collectors or milk aggregators, before anybody goes out there to buy that milk, they have to ensure that they carry out very basic tests, Madam Speaker. One, what is the total fat content? In fact, the one which is most important is to see whether the levels of aflatoxins are within the standard set for human consumption. Because we affect them. We feed them with a lot of soya, sometimes it's not even soya. Because I can tell you, most farmers in these countries will feed their cows with soya that we've imported from Uganda that has not been processed well. It has actually just been put into a big pot, and then and then a big fire has been put in so that you can be able to remove the oils, and then now you give the meal to the cows. We have to have these standards. So, and that is why, Madam Speaker, I'm reiterating on the importance, and I think we need to think. I know most bills that are introduced in this House, we are very careful when it comes to the issue of either it's a money bill or it's not a money bill. But I think it is imperative that all county governments allocate a lot of resources, train a lot of food safety individuals who can be able to go out there and measure the food, measure what we are feeding the cows, so that at least we can be able to live in a good environment. Madam Speaker, if you look at the rate of cancer in this country, it is skyrocketing. You ask yourself why. It is because people are feeding on cancerous substances. You just get something, you feed that cow, and then you end up eating it. There's a place, Madam Speaker, called Mpurputia in Narok County, in Narok South. We have so many challenges in that place. It's up in the Loita Hills, a very beautiful place. But there's no water, good water for human consumption. So where the people fetch water is the same sort of like hole that wild animals come in and pee and drink the water there. So you'll find that a lot of diseases which are common in that area, one is cancer, which is very dangerous. So I think once county governments have been able to be empowered, and this role in the function of the county government must actually be enhanced to ensure that they play a critical role even when the cabinet secretary is sitting down to develop regulations on implementation of this bill. Madam Speaker, it is also important to ensure that in our feeds and also our food, there is a traceability element to ensure accountability. If you buy food from a particular region, and I keep saying, we have 47 counties. We can benefit from each other. We don't need this World Bank and IMF. We don't need them. We train among each other. We say, Kirinyaga County, what can you provide us in Narok? Narok County, what can you provide? So we work together. We trade among each other. So if I go to Kirinyaga County and I buy animal feeds, I come and feed my cows. If my cows get sick, I can trace it. So it is important to enhance the traceability element in this bill, and I'm happy that the controller is going to enforce. I hope that when we are now developing regulations, we can be very clear in terms of the traceability. Risk assessment, regulatory standards, inspections and monitoring, traceability are very, very important. We have talked about the issue of exporting our products. We should not only be concerned about EU standards, where we're talking about exporting products outside the country, but we should also be able to be concerned about me exporting my products from Narok to Machakos County. The standards must be the same. Let me reiterate again, Madam Speaker, on something which I've seen in this bill, and it is important for us to educate the public as to why we are supporting this bill, is that the bill provides for a provision where the county government can be able to conduct capacity building on food safety and food standards. That is very critical. It is very, very important. We have raised issues of fertilizers. What fertilizers are we using? You know, I know in the last parliament, there was someone who was coming in and saying that organic fertilizer is bad, and of course they are trying to create business for their own ventures. As I conclude, there are very many consequential amendments in this bill. I've looked at the issue of certain amendments and different clauses which will be deleted in the Public Health Act. Like they are deleting the term food in the Public Health Act, they are coming up with a new definition. Controller means food safety. These are some of just the regular ones, but they are very, very important to note so that we can ensure that even when we talk about, this one is what I was looking for, Fertilizer and Animal Food Act, where now we're coming up with a new definition, and when you look at the new definition, the issue is just this controller. My focus, Madam Speaker, and this is why I really want to emphasize as I end, is that we must build the capacity of not only farmers, but also of county governments in ensuring food safety. That is why we're in this parliament. We're in this parliament to pass laws that not only build certain individuals' businesses, but bills that protect human life and bills that ensure that Kenyans are healthy. Madam Speaker, you'll be saddened if I tell you that in most part of this country, people just eat whatever they can eat because life becomes very expensive. If you go to our borders, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, sometimes people just, whatever they can get, if it's cheaper there, they just consume it. It is imperative that we add one other element in this bill that ensure that whatever we're importing, we don't only look at the issues of certificate of conformity or origin, we also look at within our standard. And I think that will call for us to look at our, trade treaties, to look at also our common commercial zones like the East African Community, so that we see whether our standards will be able to match with those ones. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I support, and I really wish that county governments can be enhanced in terms of finances to support this issue of food safety. Madam Speaker, I support.
Senator Mungatana.